guys, my name is Dina Marie Rodriguez, and I'm a full-time illustrator, hand lettering artist, teacher, and product maker of all different kinds of things living in Portland, Oregon. And I'm so excited to share with you the first ever episode of the Women of Illustration web series. This is a new series that I've started to just help promote budding new female artists in the industry and to really talk about and tackle all these different how-to questions that we have. Everything from how to find your style as an artist, how to market yourself online, how to utilize social media, how to price, what are usage rates. There's a ton of other topics we're going to be talking about during this first season. Please check out our lineup and a list of topics we'll be discussing at womenofillustration.com. Now, our first guest is actually with someone I'm very excited to present to you. Her name is Irene Feleo. Me and her spent, I don't even know, 4 or 5 hours talking during these episodes. We recorded about a month or two ago, so you might notice that I look a little different in this video. The first ever episode is all about how to practice your craft, and this is the start of a series on how to find your style as an illustrator, a big question that I know a lot of you are asking themselves, even if you are seasoned, even if you just got out of college, no matter where you are in your career. This is a question that all of us continually ask ourselves. What's my style? How can people see my work and know it's mine? And we're going to be talking about that with Irene. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Irene Feleo. She's originally from Australia, but actually lives in Brooklyn, New York right now. She is an amazing animator and illustrator and works for a New York-based company called Spontaneous. She loves to play with color and has more of an abstract vibe, really likes to work with solid shapes and geometry. I think you guys are really going to dig her work. I had such a good time talking with her, and this is the first episode ever, guys. I'm so excited. And we're going to be talking about how to practice. Now, this is a really big topic because what's the question? How do you find your style? Well, what's the answer? Practice. But that's not a very good answer. I need more information. How do I practice? What do I practice? Is there a way for me to waste my time at practicing the wrong thing? How do I find my thing? So we're going to be able to talk about all this and more with Irene. And let's do this. I'm excited. Ah! So today, I am hanging out with...
Hey guys, I'm Irene Feleo. I'm an illustrator and animator based in New York.
In New York, the cool place where the cool kids go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
First question, how did you first start practicing as an illustrator? Way back in the day.
Way back in the day. So I guess in high school, I was always obsessed with art. I would draw all the time. I was always doing tiny little sketches during class. And then I did for art, my subject in art, I did my major work as a graphic novel. My fighting fish, Mr. Miyagi, passed away, and it was about that, his journey to heaven. So
that's amazing.
It was super random. It was the weirdest thing, but I think that's when it all kind of clicked, and I was like, I really want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be a comic book artist or at least draw for a living. That's kind of what I want to do. But yeah, I think it was a mixture of just always enjoying the art of being creative and just drawing, but then finally realizing that, people are responding to this and there are career options in it. So that's when I kind of started to really pursue it professionally.
Nice. So what year was your aha moment? Can I actually make money from this?
Oh, okay, that came years later. That was the birth of me being I want to be an illustrator.
Wait,
but,
you're telling me that the second you start practicing, you don't sell your services? Whoa.
So that took years.
I always like to make that distinction just because I can't tell you how many emails I get of hey Dina, I just got your first workbook from Lettering Adventures. It's a zine where I teach one style of lettering every month on Patreon. And okay, I got the first one, I'm ready. So how much should I charge for a logo design project? I'm whoa, no.
Yeah,
a
little go-getter.
Appreciate the enthusiasm, but I think the key is you need to be able to have confidence in yourself and in your own work, and you need to start wait for your audience to be ready for you, because they will start to comment on things hey, this is rad, can I hire you, do you have commissions open, could you print this on a t-shirt? They'll let you know, and sometimes that could take a year So for some people, they get lucky and they do it really quickly because they have more natural born talent than me, and I hate them. But for the most part, you have to wait quite a long time, right? So
Yeah.
I have so many questions, and I'm like, I want to go back and forth because I'm so excited because we're on like we're on the tube.
Yeah, I know, it's exciting.
So when you first, so let's rewind, because obviously you shouldn't just jump headfirst into services as an illustrator, and also I feel like you just need to have time to just fall in love with it, too, don't you think?
Kind of get your groove and figure out even what you like, because I think the moment that people start emailing you, like I know this happened to me where like people would be like, oh, like you're creative and you kind of did design and you can draw, can you design me a logo? And I'd be like, sure, I can do a logo. I can't do a logo. Like I feel like only now I can kind of start to design logos that are even a little bit basic, but 7 years ago people were emailing me being like, can you design a logo for my soccer team? And I'm like, absolutely, and just failing miserably at it. So I forgot the question. What was the question?
Oh, I don't remember either. I was like transformed into like a previous podcast episode, which is funny because we haven't released them yet. I think it's just going to be like bonus episodes that we're going to put on Patreon. But we have an entire episode dedicated to like why fake it till you make it. It's like the worst advice in the entire world.
Yeah, exactly. Like to an extent, 100%, like fake it till you make it. But I have been there when it's gone so wrong. So yeah, there's definitely there's a line, and it's all about figuring out where that line
exactly
is.
like the soccer, this like, oh, for our kids soccer team, like if you've never done a logo, something that's like super low profile like that, cool, because if you don't try it, how are you going to know the process? But
Exactly.
the only time that I get really concerned is when someone hasn't even developed a process yet and then they're going ahead and doing work, because it's going to take you so much longer. You're not going to know how to quote for it. And obviously like real world experience is great, but there's things like passion projects, there's design community forums where they go ahead and give you an idea or a contest, and you can kind of like practice it that way. It's just when someone's paying you money to be a professional and you're not, is when I start to have like a little bit of a red flag, because they're gonna probably not treat that client very well, and they're not going to charge a lot for their services, and that client's going to have a certain expectation that's not met, and the next freelancer is going to have to deal with that baggage. And
exactly. And I think it'll also put you into panic mode because, like, honestly, if they're hiring you in something that you're not necessarily, like, you don't understand the process, you don't understand the business, and you don't even understand necessarily your own value, like, creatively, then it's just a disaster project from the start. Because I don't know, there's just so many things that can go wrong, because it sounds like maybe they might not even know what they want. They just are thinking creative, draw, sweet, you can do anything, and that's just often not the case.
So when you did first start practicing, did you find that anything was just like a huge time waster?
Time waster, hard to say. Okay, so in terms of practicing, so like I'll take you a little bit back. When I did like this really vague artistic creative course in university called digital media. So we studied animation, we did photography, we did sound, we did film, we did all sorts of things. And that they basically instilled in us the confidence that we could be whatever we wanted in the creative industry. Like they didn't teach us anything other than, oh, here, learn how to like photocomp things together using Photoshop. You can use Photoshop, you can get a job anywhere. So straight out of university, I know.
My face hilarious. Just like, no.
I like have gone through my emails, and I was applying to be like an art director at big companies, creative director. I didn't understand the difference. I was applying to be like a graphic design, like I was applying for everything. So it was just, it was bad. But along that, so it took a very long time, obviously, with me being so like, oh, I can get a job anywhere. They'd be lucky to have me. It took me a long time to get a job. So during that time, I drew a lot. And it was in that process that I started to kind of realize what I really enjoyed working on. Like I realized that I like drawing strange characters. I enjoyed like using Photoshop and a mixture of like watercolors and paints and stuff like that. So, oh God, I'm sorry, Dina, I forgot the question again.
Dude, it's gonna happen so many times. It happens all day, because I feel like when I ask a question, it's like a three-parter.
Yeah.
But the
And then I'm
original,
also so enwrapped in our
yeah,
conversation.
it
I'm
was,
like, "Meh."
yeah, no, totally. It's like, you know what's a bigger waste of time? Forgetting the answer to the
Oh,
question.
wasting time.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Because so this was a question I actually got from someone this month on lettering adventures. So every time someone signs up, I write them like a welcome email, like what are you struggling with right now? And they really like ask the same question a few times, like what's the right way to practice? Is there anything that you wish that you could have go back in time and that you wouldn't have wasted your time? And I had a really hard time answering that question because I feel like all practice is never going to be a waste of time.
Yep.
Because then,
Agree. 100%.
if you're drawing something and you realize that you fucking hate it, ding ding
Mm-hmm.
ding, that's not for you. Don't waste your time. Now,
Yep.
when you are ignoring your gut and you're doing things and compromising your values based on what you think you're supposed to do or what your parents or maybe other influences within the design community tell you what you need to do, then I think that's a waste of time. Because then you're going down a rabbit hole trying to pursue something that's supposed to be your passion and you're already compromising yourself. Like, no wonder so many people like get out of design so quickly. It's either like they work with the wrong clients or they end up just like hating what they're doing and not really knowing why. They're like, wait, this is supposed to work. Everyone else makes money, but I'm not. It's like, no, we live in this beautiful society where we can like even niche down so fucking hard. We're like, I myself as a lettering artist, I could, if I wanted to, only do hand lettered logos for apparel for people who make shoes in Africa. You know what I mean?
Very specific.
Like,
yep.
there's like, because there's so many businesses. I mean, that's probably a really weird example. But like,
It's very specific though, and that's exactly your point though, right?
exactly. Yeah. So it's like whatever your perfect plan is, or what, like mixing all the things that you love, which we're gonna get into like niching down in the third part of the series. You just kind of, I think it's just like a gut thing, and the reason I am like so like grrr about this is because I did that. I like was like, oh, I want to be an illustrator, but I'll just get a graphic design degree instead. Since it's easier to get a job.
Yeah, exactly. It's always that lure of a job and getting a paycheck. And yeah, like I did originally I was meant to go to uni and do fine arts, but I chose digital media because my parents thought that it would get me a job. And to be fair, it did, but realistically, I don't think it did that much of a difference in comparison to if I had just done a fine art degree and did a video elective, because I would have essentially learned the same skills.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, I 100% agree. Like in terms of wasting time, I would say that, yeah, like every time that you take a step and you figure out what is not working for you, that's not a waste of time. But if you keep going down a certain path, doing things thinking that you have to do it and you should be enjoying it and it is creative and it actually just isn't, that's a waste of time.
Totally.
Sure.
Cool. Again, when I was thinking of these questions, I didn't think I'd answer my own question, and then I didn't think that would be the rabbit hole we go down. I love fucking interviews so much, man. I think everyone, okay, internet people, seriously, like look at me in the face. All right, full screen, Dina. Are you ready? Are you ready? Look at me. You're looking at me. Looking at you. Okay, so it's very lonely being a designer in this universe, not just world, not just country, universe. I'm assuming there's life on other planets. Anyways,
Of course.
we need to be able to create a community for ourselves, and you need to have either like create a mastermind group or find that one person, whether it's a pen pal or someone you just talk to via email or Instagram stories, that you can find a connection with, because it's through these conversations with other artists that are like-minded, especially if you can find someone within your same niche, even better, or not so much, because me and her aren't in the same niche at all. It really makes a difference, and it makes you feel a hell of a lot less lonely. Now, I liked that question earlier. It was like, okay, what year did you start making money? I think it's more like, how long were you practicing, like just for yourself before you started to get paid for it?
Okay. Oof. All right. So I guess
That's what everyone wants to know, right? They're like, when can I see that cash money? I need some of that green paper.
I mean, that green paper for sure. I think maybe so I was always drawing in university. It was maybe like 3 or 4 years after university. So you go 3 years of uni and then you get 4 years after that. Yeah. I'd say about 7 years after, 7 years after I started.
So what did that first paid gig look like? Was it a day job or was it freelance?
It was a day job.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a job as a designer, a motion graphic designer at a production studio. So I was just doing like a bunch of commercials, like animating logos in and out. And then I got this like random brief from my job to do like this animated like completely animated spot about, I don't know, I don't even remember the spot. I just remember that it had the main brand color was green, and we had to create like this green world. So green characters, green hills, and it had to be completely illustrated. And so I designed those characters from scratch. I designed the setting and I animated all of that. And that was really the first job I think that I was like, huh, like this came out pretty well. And I'm using my skills that of illustration that no one else in this studio has. And all right, I can start to make a living out of this. Good.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to think back of like when did I first start. Well, okay, so the first time I ever made money from my illustration was in high school when I would like Sharpie people's Converse.
Oh my God, you were one of those cool people? That's
I
awesome.
had business cards and everything. my
You had business. I think you told me this when we
Yeah.
first chatted. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
my dad made me. Well, I thought
Yes,
business
you
cards
told
were
me this.
lame, and then my dad was like, "No, we're making." And we went to like Kinko's and like cut them ourselves cuz
Oh no,
we didn't.
it's frozen.
No, I'm frozen or you're frozen.
I froze, you froze, and then it's
Then we
okay.
all just froze. Okay. Yeah, you definitely got like a little bit more pixelized.
Okay.
Just a smidge. Um,
Ooh.
it's like, look at her giant blurry face. Her pores. Do they exist?
Sorry, you were at Kinko's. You got your business card.
Yeah, it was very exciting. And then I would charge like $50 a pair, and then I'd charge I think like 100 for like the to the knee Converse that came out because they came out that year when I was like I don't know like a junior in high
cool
school.
kids in your year. Yep. Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was because it's like you draw into your shoes and you feel like cool. And I had like a skull, like what's the fucking word for it? Like the Halloween skull. What is it called? What is it called?
Oh, Jack-o'-lantern.
No.
Halloween skull.
Yeah, like the with the it's Spanish.
Dia
De Muertes? De Muertes?
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, I'm
I was
Spanish.
like,
Don't judge me.
I'm like, I got the pronunciation. Dina, it's all you.
I think it's like people call them like sugar skulls. I'm gonna get tweets.
Yes, sugar skulls. Yeah.
I'm gonna get tweets. And I did that with like angel wings, all the like the common things that you would see. I think back in the day when like Ed Hardy was all the rage.
Yeah, I was about to say like the cool Ed Hardy days. Yeah.
Yeah. I spent $75 on a belt. I was that person.
Never forget.
It was the one Ed Hardy thing, and then the perfume is still really great. But anyways, but yeah, but like I think besides that, it was like day job was like my internship over at Disney, and that was like my first paycheck, and just being like, I've been staring at red and black and white for so long, this is worth it. But it was like $1,200 a month paid internship, so it was just like Florida's expensive, and that was my second thought. So
you're just kind of like,
it's like I'm gonna go shopping and for ramen.
Were you doing super creative things at Disney?
No, not at all.
Well, yeah, like that's the thing. Like I definitely had a creative day job. Like I was a motion designer for years at a production studio, but with that one project and then I guess a sprinkling of other projects, I wasn't really being creative. I was just like being very technical.
Mm-hmm. Because you do like production work.
Yeah,
I would
like
think,
I work.
right?
Yeah, like I did work in advertising, so I just do like super big like the creative has already been determined in an ad, so I'll animate it and design the motion and get these used assets and then repurpose them. So it was never super creative.
Yeah. I don't think, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh no. I don't think I was ever creative while I was working for someone else, to be honest.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
oh my God.
A lot of the times, if you are working for people, like you are creative, but not to the full potential that you could actually be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely creative in my day job now, but, leading up to it, I wasn't at all. Like, I was just, being more of a bricklayer, like technical skills, getting stuff out. And then if I was lucky and an opportunity would arise that I could like use my illustration skills, then yeah, I'd take it. But
yeah,
it's few and far between sometimes, especially when you're starting out.
It's day one. You're like, hey, drawing seems cool. I want to learn how to draw. So do you think if someone practiced, let's be crazy, 4 hours a day, every day for a year, fucking weekends, holidays, your sick days, depressed days when the weather changes and you hate it, whatever. How long do you think someone could be prepared enough to get paid for their work?
Oh my God. Like, honestly, it would not even take, like you said before, I really think that half of it is being confident in your skills and also what you can offer. It doesn't even necessarily, because, what is good illustration? Like, there is good illustration, obviously, but developing that style, that voice, and that perspective takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel like you have that, like drawing is just a vehicle for that. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So I don't know. I don't think it would take long at all.
So what would be long? 3 months? 6 months? A year? 2 years?
So if you're drawing every day for 4 hours at least, honing in your practice, making work that you're proud of, making work that you're not proud of, and figuring it out, like learning from that, like 6 months, a year. That
Yeah,
you
I
would
would agree with
maybe a
that.
year. I would say a year, honestly, just to because we live in the age of Instagram where it's like upload something, send it out. Like I'm not talking about like posting something and getting like 5 likes and being like sweet, that's good. Like I'm talking about being able to like look at your work, what's it called, critically, and being like, I like this because of this and this, I don't like this because of this and this. Like that's what you really need to learn how to develop. It's not necessarily the drawing that needs to develop, it's yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Get meta.
I hate to go hand in hand, literally. I'm so dumb. I love it. I think that's cool. I'm glad. So that's interesting. So, I mean, I'm in the lettering community, so I always bring up this person with my students, Scott Bearsack, because it's really really funny. So if you go to You Bring Fire, which was his handle, which is his handle, he didn't die or anything. God, Scott, sorry, you're alive. Rest in peace. Okay, so he was like in college, I think studying design, I'm just gonna guess. And then he decided, this is when like the 365 project got really big.
I love his work. Yep. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Right? Amazing. So if we start all the way from the bottom, right, it's not very good. And that's okay, because we all have to start somewhere. And I could have easily just used my own reference, but I love Scott just because he got so popular so quickly. So he was just producing content, right? Like, look at all these pieces. Yeah. He's doing it, and if I go back, I bet you it's like daily. So March 2nd, 2013. Wow. March 4th, 2013. Like, he's doing this consistently. And as, crazy, when you practice, you get better. That's weird. And so by the end of this, so I'm going to scroll the way back up. All right? I just went forward about a couple months. Wow.
Whoa. That's insane. Yeah. He's a really good example.
Yeah, he definitely did some progression. He ended up doing like a lot of chalk pieces at the university he was going to. And this is crazy that he was like a full-time student and he was doing this at the same time.
Yeah.
And so scrolling up, boop, 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 boop. Fast forward in time, like look at that. What the fuck? So like before he even graduated college, he was working with like companies that I like will never work with in my life. Like people for just like major, he got to do like packaging for all different kinds of things. I started to see his work just generally around. Yeah. It was just very impressive. And I
love it so much. Ooh, there I am.
Yeah, it's like, that's your face. So I just love to use him as an example because it really just gives me motivation. And I think everyone should get in the habit of like, oh, I'm feeling kind of bad about my work. Just go back in time. Yeah. You will feel better.
Exactly. Like you're always just going to get better. Yeah, you might do like a bad drawing, whatever.
You could say shit and fucking cunt and whatever.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might do a shitty drawing and just be like, oh God, I suck so much. But, the next one you do will be slightly better. And it's always just going to be better from, it's always on the up and up.
So with that being said, what do you think about the whole, like, you need 10,000 hours to be an expert?
Yeah, so I was just about to bring that up with this, like, whole conversation because, like, who knows if I've even done the 10,000 hours, but yeah, like, I mean, the more work you do, the more you figure out. And I've always been like a super firm believer of that, just because I meet like so many people who are good at illustration, who like to do illustration, but they're like, oh, like they're not comfortable enough to call themselves an illustrator necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't necessarily developed their own style, even though that they want to. And I'm like, if you just keep doing work, like, then that will happen naturally. And you can only do that through time. I don't know if I want to put a direct number behind it, but yeah, it's definitely like not a bad thing to just keep working.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. I just know some people it like hurts my heart a little bit when people take other people's advice so seriously. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, like that's a pretty predominant thing in the industry where it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I haven't reached 10,000 hours, so I'm garbage." It's like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what?"
Oh, no, not at all.
No. Maybe like the first 100.
Yeah.
But
But
like come on. Like
yeah.
I think we get a little too hard on ourselves, and I think one of the things I was really trying to do with like this whole show was really just trying to show different perspectives on how you can do things, because there's more than one right way and there's a shit ton of wrong ways.
Exactly.
And you just
It's all
have to
about
kind of
trial and error.
exactly, you just have to try some shit and see what sticks on the wall. It's gonna be gross.
Yeah.
So do you do any like exercises or like things sort of deliberate practice now to like keep your your skills fresh?
Um, so at the moment, because of Instagram, because like back in the day when I was like practicing illustration and like doing all my drawing and stuff, there wasn't really Instagram, like the instant gratification of like almost everyone being online and seeing it. There was only things like DeviantArt and
Yeah.
LiveJournal and, MySpace, where like you could kind of get to share your artwork. But now with Instagram, you can post something and then almost instantly people will be like, "Oh my God, love, oh, like cool drawing," or whatever. So because now there's Instagram, I pretty much create work that with the intention to share it on Instagram, which has never been a thing
Mm-hmm.
before. Like, I guess I've always just made work and been like, "Oh, this is like something that, maybe I'll put in my blog one day," or like, this is just like will be a nice print. But now like I do work specifically with the intention to share it on Instagram. So it's in the format of a square. And yeah, it's good because it's like it can kind of be whatever I want, like experimentation, whatever's inspiring me at the moment. But yeah, I guess that's probably my practice, is making stuff that I know I can share.
So would you say that you like so just to like simple it down. So the term deliberate practice is a little different from practice. And I agree with you. I think the majority of people who do practice do it in project form. Like they're just
Yeah.
constantly making and then they're practicing throughout it. So by deliberate practice I mean like okay, so like in lettering, like let's take the letter S, right? The letter S sucks. We all suck at the letter S. So if you notice you're really bad at something, deliberate practices would be maybe taking 3 pages and just drawing the letter S over and over and over and over again. Or
Yeah.
if you're really bad at drawing hands or feet like everyone else because they suck, doing a page full of hands. So like just being able to point out your own sore spots in your work and then just crush the fuck out of it
Yeah.
is really so. With that being said, is there anything in what you have to do in your day to day, because you're both like an illustrator and an animator, that you feel like you kind of suck at?
So I have a really interesting response to this question. I don't know if it's necessarily what most people do.
Mm.
But so, for example, I'm generally very bad at drawing bodies, like drawing perspectives and stuff, like, things that look realistic,
Mm.
bodies, like anatomy. And I always thought to be an artist, to be an illustrator, because originally I wanted to be a comic book artist, I thought I had to be good at that. And I would always find it super disheartening when I would go to like a life drawing class and I would kind of be average at it and I would suck. So I would I developed my style almost based on my weaknesses. And so I would work deliberately against it so that I would not get disheartened.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I'm not a very technical person. I've always like kind of been like, I'm not very good technically at animation. I'm not very good technically at perspective or anatomy. And so I feel like my creativity has flourished based around those weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
because I got so disheartened every time I wasn't good at something.
Yeah.
So I did the opposite. If I was not good at drawing a body, I wouldn't draw a body, but then I would find a way to convey a body in maybe in abstract shapes, in either colors, you know, like in whatever way that was possible that wasn't drawing a body. So I did the opposite, which is not the best advice, but
But it's what you did, right?
yes, it is
That,
what it is. But that being said, for example, lately I've been trying to get an idea of how tigers' faces are because I've really wanted to draw like kind of like a wild animal, like kind of like snarling,
mhm.
and tigers' faces are so bizarre. They have like a weird little snout, and their mouths are kind of like weird and curved. And so I would look at all these different reference photos, and I've tried to draw a tiger face. Um, so yeah, I guess that is something like, and I found myself recently drawing a tiger face multiple times, which is something I don't often do. If I can't draw something, I find a way around it. But lately, I've been trying to draw animals. So yeah, I guess that is something recently that I've been doing.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you think this is probably I already know the answer to this, but so do you ever go at a time where you just stop practicing and then you went to go draw and you're like, oh fuck, I suck at this.
Yes, I do all the time. It sucks. Like, yeah, and I wonder if that will ever go away. But half of it is just turning that bit off in my mind that's like constantly judging and being like, this looks like shit, like you should do better at this. Like, and often that's why I listen to a podcast or I watch something in the background so that that part of my mind can concentrate on that and I can just kind of draw without being so judgmental, because I find that that's when I do really shitty work or work that isn't really me, is when I'm constantly thinking, oh, like what am I going to draw next, like is it going to look like this, is it going to do this, like yeah, like, so yeah, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. I'm super worried about that when I go on my vacation in a few weeks. But I think that you have to have a fine line between turning your work brain off when you're on vacation versus just drawing for yourself.
Yeah,
Like there's something
yeah,
wrong with just
it's
like
hard,
doodling a
isn't
little
it?
bit. That's why I think like something that's really hard to do that I started doing is I'll like draw on like a napkin or just a loose leaf piece of paper and I'll draw and then I'll crumple it up and throw it away.
Ooh, you monster.
I know. Because it's like the only way that I know that I'm not gonna like turn
Treat
it.
it seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
create like, oh, this is gonna turn into a series, or now I'm gonna do I'm gonna like, oh, let me post this or whatever. Like, I feel like because of Instagram and how easy it is to share your work, that we very seldomly save our work for ourselves.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for our memory of the drawing. Because also I'm not a big fan of clutter, and like I don't keep a lot of old sketches. Like after a year, I throw it all away.
Oh
I'm like,
my god, you throw them away?
I do.
No.
Yeah.
I love all my old sketches. Like well, since moving to New York, I haven't been drawing as much. Like, because like in Australia, I have like years of like loose leaf paper, because I do love drawing on loose leaf paper. Sketchbooks are so intimidating to me because I'm like,
You
everything
don't want to
in
ruin
here.
them. I know.
Yeah, I'm like, everything in here must be beautiful. But yeah, I have so many loose leaf papers, and I just like keep them in folders because I love looking through it.
See, if it was like in a sketchbook, I would keep it more, because then it'd be like a journal.
Yeah.
But then it's like a bunch of loose.
But then it wouldn't be the same, because if it was
Yeah.
in a sketchbook, you'd just be like, you would treat it differently. I don't
It's
know.
hard. Yeah, the only kind of sketchbooks I can use are like these small little like field note things, and I have like
Oh, I love those
so
ones.
many
Yeah,
of
they're good.
these. It's nuts. Just because Scalp Books live in Portland, and every event I go to, they're like a sponsor, and they give you like 5. So I literally have just like 4 drawers just full of these little notebooks.
Oh my god, amazing! I love them. They're so little.
They're
and
so
cute.
cute. Yeah, we have field notes and Scout books, both in Portland. So it's like, this is the city of the tiny sketchbooks.
I need to visit Portland.
Yes, please do. Oh, speaking of that, tangent may or may not keep in video. I'm gonna create like a little conference during the summer. Yeah, me and Noah Camp, and someone who was in my mastermind group. He is pretty much like creating his own niche, which is 3D typography.
Oof, nice.
Yeah, and he started out as like an amazing calligraphy artist, and he's just such a beautiful person. And so he's gonna teach like Cinema 4D, and then I'll do like a lettering workshop, and then the second we're gonna do like a 2-day workshop, and then the second day will be all about marketing, and he'll teach social media because he's got like over 100,000 followers, and it's kind of a big deal. And then I'll teach like SEO and how to build like a client attracting website.
That's incredible. cool.
And that's like an idea we just came up with like a week ago. So we're going to try to pitch it during the summer. So when Portland's all nice and shiny and not gray or depressing at all. And that should be cool. So yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Give you an excuse to come to Portland.
No, that is an excuse. I am there.
So last big question, and this is something I get asked a lot. Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
All right. How do you feel about copying other people's work in order to practice?
Oof, that is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I don't know. Like, I mean, when I was younger, I definitely used to copy the masters, you know, like I would look at a Michelangelo painting or, you know, a Leonardo da Vinci painting or a Caravaggio painting, and I'd like copy the format, or, you know, even like my grandpa ages ago gave me this old book of fairy illustrations, like super old, like a combination of illustrations like that. And I would just copy the form, you know, of like when I was like looking at their faces or stuff like that, but I would always turn it into my own thing. I would say that I'm pretty against copying an artwork for the sake, like line by line. I would say use something as reference, you know, like I would always look at those realistic paintings as reference just for like a position or a form, and then I would build on it. But I don't think you have anything necessarily to gain from copying an artwork line by line, because that artwork would have been created. I mean, obviously there will be, you know, I'm sure lettering is a little bit different because there are like, you know, different styles that you could copy, like maybe, but I don't know. I don't think you should ever copy something line by line, because that artist made it in their style. And I don't know if you're learning anything necessarily by copying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's good advice. Like my rule of thumb is, if you want to trace my work, go for it. If you want to use my work as inspiration, totally. Just don't post it. Like do whatever you want to do in your own time. Yeah. Just don't share it. Even if you tag me. Even if look, okay, I'm going to do again. Look at my face. Look at me looking at you. Okay. So even if you tag me, even if you're like, oh, this inspired me, like, and this is just not my point of view. This is, I think, the majority of artists' point of view. They don't like that. Yeah, we're not a fan. Create your own work. If you want to maybe like DM me a sketch that you did of mine, and if you want like feedback, which I'll charge you for because time is money, but also I'd be more than willing to do something like that. But it's when you're like taking my work and claiming it as your own in a way, that's when I started to get really offended. And I've been there. I've copied people's work and been called out for it. That's happened. And I think that would probably happen to everyone if you do that, and you're not going to get away with it ever. Especially like if you're like a lettering artist like me, the community is so small that if you notice something looks like someone else's, it probably is, just because even though it's way more popular than it was, there's still limited amounts of resources versus like how to draw a letter A in a brush script versus drawing a face. You know what I mean? It's like your options are much more limited. So I think you just really have to consider like just broaden your scope of inspiration, I think is key. Like I like how they drew this eyeball. I like how they drew this S. I like how they did this like ligature or swash in a letter. I like this color palette from this person. And then you kind of Frankenstein your inspiration. So that way it feels more like you, because we have to be honest, no one's ever going to come up with another original idea probably, but it's your interpretation of that idea is what makes it new, you know?
And your execution. Yeah, absolutely.
Man. So that's it. I think
we did it.
I always want to leave with like a golden nugget. So on the best ways to practice, what do you think is like the big thing, the message for the people?
Oh man, like it's so obvious, but you know, to practice, do it every day. Like don't do it on the weekends. Don't do it, like I would say, you know, if you study, that's cool. Do it when you get home. If you work full time, that's cool. Do 1 to 2 hours when you get home, but just draw every day, because I don't think that you can get better without it.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I know I can hear like parents like screaming at their computer, like, what if we have babies! The babies! No, totally. Take care of your kids. Don't let them die on your watch. That'd be bad,
Nope,
I hear.
absolutely not. Feed them,
Yeah, not a parent. Don't know. But I would imagine that's bad. But it's something like you carve out 10 minutes. 10 minutes for yourself. Whether you wake up an extra 10 minutes earlier, or you go to bed later, or at your lunch break, or like maybe you're just in your car and you're before you go into work, you just want to take out your little tiny field note sketchbook and draw something really tiny for 10 minutes. That's fine. Just so that way you don't abandon your passion, because nothing's more embarrassing, I think, when you're like, oh, I'm going to be a creative, I'm going to be an artist. And then your friends are like, when was the last time you drew something? You're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you mean? And then you change the subject. Not cool. So I think just being consistent, and also I always try to give that advice, because once you start something, the 10 minutes can turn into 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour or 4 hours if you're crazy like Scott. Pretty much. So I hope you guys enjoyed our first ever video. This is our first, and I'm so excited that it was with you, my friend, and I'm going to show off all your work.
People can follow me on Instagram at Irene Feleo. And yeah, just check out my work, www.irenefeleo.com. I am the only Irene Feleo really on the internet, so that's pretty good. But yeah, just check out my work. That would be great.
Yeah, give her all the likes and follows, because her work is insane. We did it! First episode of Women of Illustration is complete! I hope you guys enjoyed that. Even though me and Irene talked over like a month ago, it still resonates with me, all the things that we talked about during this session together, and just figuring out the best ways to practice, and is really giving you guys and myself a lot to think about. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about how do we make time to practice? Now, this is a big question, because it's not enough just to figure out what you want to practice, but how do you figure out how to make time in our very busy schedules so you can practice? So this was definitely an episode that I wanted it to have its own at least 30 or 40 minute segment. And we're going to be coming back with Irene Feleo. Guys, please follow her on all the things. And if you guys would like to support Women of Illustration, you can do that at patreon.com/Women of Illustration. And you guys can just donate just $1. Just $1 to get early access to every single episode. You can even binge watch some of the episodes if you want. And if you guys would like to get featured on the Women of Illustration Instagram, not only follow us at instagram.com/Women of Illustration, but please use the hashtag, you guessed it, Women of Illustration, so I can have an easier time finding your beautiful work and promoting it on social media. Guys, if you have any questions at all, either leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can. And also keep in mind that at the end of January, me and Irene are going to be doing a live Q&A for patrons only. So with that $1, not only do you get early access, but you also get access to the live streams. So you can follow up with Irene on any goals she might have made. You guys can ask us any questions that we can answer for you live on YouTube. And as always, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I would love for you to join our community. Bye, guys. See you next time.